Welcome back to the Right Hype podcast. Today we have the lovely Jordan in the hype seat. Jordan is a Houston native who fell in love with fashion at a young age, and it's a passion that her and her mom shares dearly. As she got older and fast fashion started to take over, she felt compelled to start creating pieces that focus on quality while still being cute. She went to Houston's Rice University to get her business degree, and after she shortly launched the brand Alexandra Designs in 2019. Her designs blend different elements, modern colors and shapes with classic silhouettes and fabrics without sacrificing quality. Welcome, Jordan.
Thank you. So I'm glad to be here.
I'm so glad that you decided to join. Um, I believe we met in New York, actually. I think we met through a friend of Saray, actually, of
Yeah,
events.
one of
Did
the
we meet
events.
at the after party?
I think we did. I think we met for the first time at the after party, and then we kind of just started bumping into each other at a lot of other events. I think it was probably last year's fashion week, like around September.
Yeah, I just had her come on the podcast, and
Oh,
we
yay!
were talking about Lux and Chico and the after party, and I've
Oh,
been really like, come on,
good.
yeah. So
Yay! I love that.
this is a friendship born out of another friendship, the New York circle. So, well, thanks for joining today. I want to start off by just getting into your designs and how you started designing.
Yeah, so I originally started designing like pretty much right around the time that I was graduating from college and undergrad. I actually remember like one specific event was like me preparing for LA for the first time my senior year. I was like so excited. And at this point, like I already loved fashion, I loved clothes, and I guess it was kind of a dream in the back of my head that I'm gonna graduate, I'm gonna get a really good job, my little corporate, girly job. I'm gonna be dressed like, Joan Clayton, Tony Childs. Like that was kind of always the dream in the back of my head. And, so I guess as I was progressing through college and like I didn't have enough of enough time to focus on fashion, solely. But like I bought a sewing machine like my sophomore, junior year, and it was literally just sitting in my dorm for years because I was like, I'm gonna learn how to make clothes. But like I just never had the time to really sit down and give it the devotion that I wanted. And so senior year, I was planning to go to LA with my boyfriend at the time. I'm like so lit, so hype, I'm like, I'm 21, we're about to go to LA for the first time. And, on my little college student budget, I'm thinking, you know what, F it. I'm gonna buy like whatever, I don't care. Like I need to look fly. I'm going to LA. And so I'm like in like Rice Village is like a shopping area that's really near Rice University. And they used to have like really cute, boutiques and like really different, unique stuff. And so I remember going there. I'm like so hyped. I'm like, I'm gonna come out with this whole new wardrobe. And I'm literally looking around and, prepared to splurge. And I'm like, I literally don't even see anything that I really like that I want to buy, like if this is the time, where's the stuff? And so I feel like that was kind of a really pivotal point for me of like, there clearly is a niche that I need to fill, at least, for myself and from what I've heard from other women, people that kind of looked at to me for style tips and style advice and realizing there just aren't, it's just really difficult to find those good quality pieces that you really like and enjoy that I felt like spoke to a young woman's aesthetic.
Yeah, that is such a story that I think resonates with a lot of people in fashion that sort of like as you get older, your taste starts to change.
Yeah.
You're starting to crave those like either really like quality staples or quality like statement pieces or just like pieces that really speak to your heart and your soul. And
Yeah.
I was having a similar conversation with my friend a couple of days ago how um, my dream is to eventually start just making my own clothes because I know exactly what I want and
Mhm.
I know exactly how I want it to fit. But
Yeah.
to find that item and the right size and the silhouette and everything is impossible nowadays.
Yeah.
because everything is so trend driven and so focused on like, you know, fast fashion.
Yeah.
So it's such a, I think that's such a need that needs to be fulfilled like in the market is, you know, finding clothes that are not just like stylish but also are quality and they feel like they mean something to you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, like you said, yeah, as we're growing, I was kind of worried because fast fashion, comparatively has kept growing as well. And so I thought at this age, I mean, as we got older, we would start to kind of, veer towards the quality. And I think we are. And just, yeah, fast fashion is still doing its thing too. So it's like, it's a difficult situation. It's like a battle, like a tug of war, you know what I mean? And I do
That's
feel like there's a lot of independent brands too that do cater to coming from New York, right? Like seeing that in person and realizing, oh, there are actually a ton of small brands, niche brands that cater to those needs. It's just it's weirdly hard to access. I think we think of the internet and social media as like, oh, we now have access to everything, but it's still, you have to know what you're looking for, you know? So if you're not seeing these pieces on people or your favorite artists, your favorite people, you're probably just not aware of them. Like I tell my friends all the time, like some people I know love to shop certain brands that they know about because it's you see it at the mall or you see it on Instagram and you shop there and people always complain like, oh, I never find the right size. Like I can't this brand doesn't fit my size. I'm like, there's probably a brand out there that fits your aesthetic and your size, but you just don't know they exist, you know? So I think it's definitely a two-edged sword.
Yeah, I agree. I think you just dropping some gems. I want to also talk about your early designs. Like, what was the first product you came out with? What were your inspirations at the time?
Oh yeah. Okay, so I started out with bikinis. I feel like a lot of designers start out with bikinis. I don't know. But
Why would you
that
say that? Hold on, tell me more about that because I'm curious why a lot of designers start with bikinis.
I don't know. I maybe it's just me, my perception. I feel like at the time, maybe it was like the bikinis were the thing. I feel like little skimpy clothes. I was like, that was the vibe. So I
Right.
made bikinis, and I wanted something bright and fun, and I had a vision, and it was a big hit actually. People really loved it, and so I think a lot, especially back home, like a lot of people kind of know me as like, oh, you did the bikinis, and I'm like, yeah, that was it. Like this is now. So I do more than just bikinis now. But yeah, that was the first like thing, and it made a big splash, and they were fun. Like I had my girls modeling for me. They looked fantastic, and it was just like my first photo shoot, and I just remember it being so much fun. Like we had a little champagne on deck at the pool, and we just had a great time. And it was just like the first time it felt like, wow, this is really a brand that I'm creating. Like there's a message here, there's a theme, and I'm able to convey it and portray that to the world. So yeah.
Amazing. I mean, I've seen your designs and they're definitely, you're not designing bikinis anymore. You're doing full looks, like, which is really amazing.
Thank you.
Um, what has been sort of inspiring you lately to continue designing?
Well, it's a tough one. As you know, like I've just recently transitioned from New York back home for a while. So it's been difficult. It's like I feel the fire still in me to design, and I know that there's still the motivation. As far as inspiration, it's been something I've been asking myself a lot lately, actually, like where am I drawing my inspiration now? Because my the collection I did while I was in New York was called I Heart New York, and it was inspired by New York, obviously, but also just my Houston roots and things that reminded me of home, and just kind of the collaboration of the two. Because I really love both cities, and they're so different, And I think that's a lot of what my brand is about, is combining elements, like you said. So taking that same ideology and trying to figure out what my next collection looks like has been something I'm sifting through. And I feel like, as a designer, I see other designers and artists, and we all know like artists are inspired by their own lives. Like, even though we're supposed to be removed from the art, they're inspired, and you can see it in their works and their collections where, oh, this Picasso was going through this period in his life. As a reflection, the art is this. And I feel that with my move, I know, like, I feel like this is going to be a really interesting new collection. Like, I have a couple pieces that I know I'm going to put out probably by the end of the year, including something for men. But they're kind of
Oh,
things I've been But yeah, the kind of things I've been sitting on for a while that just need to come out that people have been asking about for a long time. Um, but yeah, I'm just kind of waiting because I feel like God is literally about to move me in a way, and like trying to get back in touch with the things that are important to me, the things that personally, and things that move me stylistically. I think it's going to face itself in my next collections. But
That's really beautiful. I want to just dive in as much as you can. I feel like I've been around designers who have gone through periods where, the inspiration, like the faucet isn't as full. It's not going full blown. It's,
yeah.
a trickle, and, it's still movement. It may not be fast and it may not be big, but you're still moving and you're still pushing. How, how has sort of you looking to your life, digging for that inspiration, how does that change you as a person? And, and as just like a person with a dream to continue to push to be a designer, how is that changing you internally? I know that's like a weird question, but
No, I
yeah.
think it's a good one though. I think it kind of touches on, for me, the difference between creating a brand as like an entity, a money making enterprise, or an iconic symbol, and creating pieces slash art that you feel speaks to the world, or and then also the other option is like more in the business sense of creating something that is a niche, right? Like filling a niche. And of course, when most designers, I think when you decide you want to be an entrepreneur, you want to be a business owner, and specifically for fashion, you're trying to fill all of those things. And I think in the last year or so, especially being around so many other talented people in New York, and getting a lot of advice from different people about their brands, and realizing that we all have different motivations. For me, I think the principal motivation was always filling the niche, but like expressing a side of fashion that I don't see, that I feel like isn't ubiquitous. It's not like very prevalent in the market right now, but I know it has existed, right? Like I was, previously inspired by a lot, like my mom and her styling, but a lot of 90s, 2000 shows, Girlfriends, like freaking love Mean Girls, and like all the girly vibes, but you could tell the quality of clothes back then was just different. And I think that's on one side because of the materials production. Like you can literally just tell, like even our wools and our silks and our leathers now are usually thinner. They're usually not the same weight, the same density. And, that's probably a result of a lot of things, climate change, and of course, costs, right? The cost, it's just way more expensive to make. So, but I can, for me, I can see that, and it makes a difference on whether I want a piece. Like I've seen a denim jacket that I'm like, I love that design, but it's not heavy enough. Like it's not, the cut isn't right. Like for me, to really, for it to resonate with me. And so that's what my brand is always, I, you know, I think this transition in this period of time has made me go back to that. Like, what did you make this brand for? What is J. Alexandra Design supposed to be about? And coming face to face, honestly, with the fact that that is slightly a self-serving notion, right? Like I did it to express myself in something I felt was needed in the market. And so now the task is validating that market, really establishing and finding that market, and then understanding how much are they willing to pay for a piece? How much do they really want this kind of this kind of clothing? And is it within the parameters of the vision I have for my brand to tweak it, right? Because to be a successful business, you have to be responsive to the customers. It can't just be, well, I want to put these things out. Like some people are able to just put out whatever and people are going to buy it. They already have that following, you know what I mean? And they have that kind of influence. But for what I wanted to do, it's not, I don't think that's the lane I'm in right now. So that means to some degree having to cater to the needs of people, but having the validity to know that the people that are my immediate audience are the ones who actually, really do want my brand, and not just my brand Sheinified, like I like your clothes, but I want it to be at $10 or, or I want it to be at this quality level, because that's not really the market I'm speaking to. So I think a lot of this time period is is parsing out those questions that have been in the back of my head and taking the advice that I've gotten and, the experiences I've gained from New York, and realizing that there are a lot of successful brands and there are a lot of brands that will ultimately not, make it and won't succeed. And where do I want to place myself? What matters to me the most? And finding the right people that truly want to be a part of my brand ecosystem.
Wow. You said so many good things. First of all, I just want to say I'm proud of you, because that's like such good, deep like work that you need in order to have that foundation. Like the first thing you brought up that I thought was super smart is like there's a difference between your brand, your business, and your product. And those three sort of main areas of focus for any brand at any level, but specifically when you're beginning, are really hard to like get going on three separate wheels and move efficiently. So there's a lot that it takes to launch. Not, you can't just have the product. You have to understand, well, what is my product saying as a
Yeah.
brand? And then what is the actual like operations? Like, how do I scale? So that was the first thing that like really stuck out to me. Another thing that stuck out to me is your why. Like what's your why driving what you're doing? And your why doesn't have to be your brand, but it does have to internally motivate you to show up and do that design work that it takes every day, or not even every day, but it just the attention that it deserves for it to proliferate. So that was another piece. And I think the last thing that really stuck out to me was you talking about the customer and finding your community and, you know, finding the person who is willing to pay for the quality is important, but it doesn't have to come quickly, I don't think. I think
Yeah,
you can
I
sort of
agree.
build on top of the momentum that you have gained and continue to tell that narrative right where you left it off. Because it's not like you're starting from zero. You've actually done a lot. You're just building like from there.
Um,
So, there are probably emerging designers or new designers listening to this podcast. What's a piece of advice for an aspiring designer?
good questions. One, I think, for my piece of advice for an emerging designer, know your why, but also I think be different. I feel like we have to, all of us as like creators, like as creative people, and I've been reading this book that talks about, I've been talking about this book for months. But anyways, I'm not going to get into that. But it reminds me, because it talks a lot about the economics of art and how it's impacting our art now. Right.
Please get into the book.
Okay.
Like, tell us the
Really quick,
title, author. Yeah, let's get into it.
really quick. The book is, I'm trying to see if I have it lying around right now. I usually have it like 2 feet from me at all times. But it's called The Death of the Artist. It is by his last name is Darasiewicz. And so yeah, it's basically like it reads like a essay type book, like something you would have read in college if you were taking, I don't know, I guess fashion or art merchandising, whatever. But it's really good. And he wrote it in 2019, I think. So it was around the time right before the pandemic started. I think it was 2019, 2020. And so it talks about just like the effects of, his argument is basically that tech, and I feel like social media is really what it is, but he says big tech is like negatively impacting art, like true art, and how we consume art. It's also a function of economics, and like it's a lot. It's a lot. So I don't want to get too much into it because I can get so into it. But I think there's a lot of helpful nuggets in that book that kind of speak to what I'm going to say for my advice for designers is be different, like there are a ton of brands out there. So you have competition. What we need as people who really love fashion and style and content creative, what I think we really need is difference. Like we don't need Diesel 18 times. Like we love Diesel and it was great. We don't need Loewe a million times. Like just because of course we're always inspired, be different, like that is what's going to keep fashion thriving, because fast fashion is on the rise, and what they literally just steal our designs. So if everything looks the same, everything looks the same, and no one's going to flourish. So um like, find your difference, I think, and lean into that. And just, I think that also comes into, knowing your why. Because if your why is really like, oh, I know a lot of brands that emerge, and the truth is the reason they're doing it is for money reasons, and I get it. It's a tough economy, like, we all trying to make it. um but if your why is, oh, I seen Supreme make this t-shirt and they just slapped Supreme on it, I could do that, I'm gonna just make my own brand. Then it's like, you know, I'm not going to knock it, because you can still be successful, right? Like, we have a lot of similar types of brands out here right now. But I think knowing your why, and just honestly being, if that's really your main goal, you're probably setting yourself up for a short-term um company, right? A short-term business. So you need to plan your exit. Like, you want to make a bunch of money in the next 3 years, 5 years, you feel like you got a product that is hot, that can sell. Make your money, get out. You know what I mean? Plan your exit if that's really your only why. Because one, fashion is like the second most wasteful industry in the world. So we owe it to ourselves in the freaking world to not just contribute unnecessary waste. So that's why I say be different. I don't think there's any real reason to have a ton of the same brands, but that's me. So, for the sake of fashion, know your why, plan accordingly.
Totally. I agree. I agree. We don't need more waste. What we do need is innovation, and we need actual clothes that are benefiting real people, not like just slender bodies, but like
Yeah.
big guys, big women, tall women, short women. Like, there's so many people to dress in this
Yeah.
world that we're not dressing.
Yeah, that's so
We
true.
want to dress for a majority, or we want to dress for just the cool kids. Well, it's like, when do you find a niche, or when do you find like a problem to solve, or when do you really bring out something that no one has ever seen before, so
Yeah.
that I think the culture moves forward in that way, right?
Right. No, absolutely. And I think, as a result of the economic issues, right? Like, if you're going into it like, oh, I'm just going to make these clothes, I could probably sell a bunch, or I could probably make some money doing this. You're not really thinking of solving a need. You're thinking of following the trends and capitalizing, monetizing that, right? Like, for me, like, I just got back home and realized the kind of pieces I really want to make to, keep my brand going at the level I want it to be. I need my own technical, like, I need to up level my own technical skill. So I'm back in fashion design classes right now, because I'd taken some before I moved to New York, and now I'm back because I realized I was kind of hitting a wall, like hitting my cap of, this is the extent to my technical skill. If I want to, even with providing like plus size clothing, right? Women ask me about that all the time. In fashion school, they teach you, of course, basics. They teach you straight sizes immediately. That's most of your training. So if you really want to be serious about catering to that kind of demographic, you got to get in the books. Like, you got to really do your research and figure out, how do I cater to this demographic? It's more than just saying, oh, I see this need, I'm going to fill it. Like, if you want to be thorough and intentional and make quality clothing that people are going to actually like, and it's going to actually fit them, it's like, it takes some time, like you said. And I think you have to do the work. So
I agree. Wow. Thank you for that. I did. That's also just a good reminder in general for like any business. Like, you need to know your market, you need to know your customer, and then you need to do the research and constantly be researching, constantly be leveling up.
yeah.
So it's smart for you to recognize that you're reaching a point where you're ready to upskill and
Yeah.
it's time to invest. Um, that's the biggest thing as creatives, as designers, is continuing to just invest in yourself, invest in your brand. It's going to cost some money, and it's definitely going to cost some time, but
Yeah.
it's worth it, because you leave with a whole new set of skills, and even just probably a different perspective on how to grow your business.
Yeah.
It's all interconnected, and so it's about continuing to um push yourself forward, for
Absolutely.
sure. Okay, who is someone that you would love to see wearing your design?
Oh my gosh. Okay. I love this. I am so one. anybody who wants to wear my designs and who wants to rock them, like I'm all for it. So that's like I super want my brand to be a brand that people just love. Like I'm big on that. So, I've had opportunities to collab with people and it's like if you don't love it, if you don't see it and you're like, "Oh my God, like yes," then it's cool. You don't even. But so yeah, that's that. But of course I have people that I feel like would love my clothes. Honestly a lot of other designers. So Tori, like she's this girl from Houston. She has her own brand, Tordrobes, but she's so freaking stylish. Like every post, every fit, it's just chef's kiss. So like I feel like I could totally see her in like this Gwen set, like these suede pants that I have. I just feel like she would body them. So I would love to see her in my clothes. And then for like the I Heart New York collection, I have a lot of girly elements. It's a lot of heart shaped motifs for all the pieces. So when I think of that collection, I always think of Ariana Grande and just Sabrina Carpenter come to mind. But yeah, and just like a lot of like influencers that I follow, like this one India Brown, I just recently followed. I love her page. And I feel like she has the vibes. Like I feel like I could see her in a few of my pieces too. Like not so much the I Heart New York collection, but kind of, I guess, thinking futuristically, the things that I'm about to put out, I feel like are her vibe. So, and then Piera, I love her too, but I met her in New York, so she's really cool.
Love. I agree. I feel like your I Heart New York collection definitely fits that girly pop vibe. Like that's really, really a good brand alignment there.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
We're gonna dive into some more cultural topics. I want to hear what fashion brands are you currently obsessed with?
Oh, okay. I'm kind of basic. I'm not gonna lie. I've seen everybody posting for Fashion Week, and I'm like, dang, like I haven't gone to any new shows this year because I moved right around that time. So I see a lot of new brands that I'm like, dang, I might need to be into you. But I feel like Schiaparelli, everybody's freaking into Schiaparelli right now, which like for good reason. Um, kind of obsessed with them. I've been obsessed with Loewe still, low key. I don't know. I just love the way they do the things that they do. Like
Yeah.
I just feel
The
like it's very
Scaparelli Gold is like really iconic.
no, yeah, no. It's the sculpturalness. Like I remember studying Schiaparelli like in school, and I was like, oh, hold on, Elsa, she knew what she was doing, and so I just I love it, and I love that people love it too. So that's been really fun to see, like people posting about it a lot. Um, yeah, that way they has been my thing. Prada is always my girl. Like I honestly, I don't. I feel like I love Prada more than I can really explain. I think it just literally speaks to who I am at my heart because some of the pieces I'd be like underwhelmed by. I'm not gonna lie, but just they always have something that I'm just like, yes, this is what I imagine in my closet. So it's like I feel like I'll never not be obsessed. Like everybody can hate Prada, and I would understand it, and I would just be like, yeah, I get you, but I still want them shoes, like, so that one,
I
um,
really like Prada too. It screams quality. You know what I mean? Like it's not
mhm.
always. I feel like Scaparelli screams quality in a different way. It's like the gold accents. It's the sculptureness of it all,
Yeah,
and then some of it is like really tongue in cheek, like the gold toe on the shoe or like
yes,
the ear on the eye. Like that's very fun in the way. Like I
yeah,
feel like Prada is like hardcore, like pulling from archives constantly, mashing
yeah,
things together,
yeah. I think
really
that's what I
like
like about
dialing
it.
more into their like customer type, which
Yeah.
is sort of this like boyish girl and this
Mhm.
guy that's kind of like very like sartorial and like has a lot more
Yeah.
like flair to him a little bit. Like
Yeah.
I can't help but think of the Marcus Goldberg when he was walking for Prada and he had like this fur cuff thing. Like it was
Mhm.
just weird,
Yeah.
but Prada has definitely they have a space in my heart too. I like them.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not the only one. I feel like that's always my first thought when people ask, and I'm like, this is so basic, but I just love Prada too.
Yeah, that's a good brand. And then I think you were mentioning a couple of other brands.
Yeah, I mean, I've been into Fendi a lot more lately too. They specifically have like, so a lot of the brands I like is because like the ones that'll be top of mind for me are like they have one piece that I really want. So Fendi has a bag I really want right now. So been kind of watching them. Oh, and then like Siriaco is like this, woman-owned brand called Made by Siriaco. I love that brand. Like the marketing, the vision is beautiful, and I don't even think she makes a lot of commotion. I haven't seen a lot of like posts from her in the last year or so, but like always in the back of my mind because I've literally been waiting on a pair of shoes that she dropped this year for years. I'm talking like I've been waiting on these shoes for like at least 5 years. She finally dropped them. I was like, okay, I'm ready. I'm ready. But then it was like a pre-order situation. I was like, I'm gonna buy them like for my birthday. And then they're sold out right now. And I'm like, okay, I like trying not to cry because there's no way I can't have these shoes. But anyways, the brand, amazing. Same thing with Hanifa. Freaking love Hanifa. Like, and it's like Hanifa to me is like not even, I feel like I'm just left of her target customer just because she's always kind of catered to a more bodyful woman. And I love it. And I'm like, this is who I thought I was going to be. But it's okay. Like, the clothes are so beautiful. I have like 2 Hanifa dresses, and there's another one she just put out and some like a bunch of stuff that's basically sold out that I'm like, why can I never get my hands on what I want? So yeah.
I love that. I mean, that's so cool. The Hanifa's definitely been catching my eye. She just stepped into, I guess small leather goods with the recent bags
Oh, the bags. I was
that
so
she just,
excited about that.
and the marketing is genius. She like is showing how much the bag can really hold, and
Mm-hmm.
it's really like made from good quality. And I follow the designer on Twitter, and she'll talk about sort of the process and
Yeah.
the trials. I remember her saying like, "I hope y'all love this bag because I've been working hard, like
Yep.
just doing things for the customer." And I think that's always comes through in a founder or a designer, not just in design, but just like how they keep in touch with their
Right.
community.
Yeah,
Uh,
and with her for the bags, like touching on like mothers. I remember she talked about that, like how it was designed with mothers in mind, and like being able to put I don't know, your formula, like all kinds of stuff in there. Because I think she has multiple sizes in that bag, right? And
yeah.
then yeah, like I just thought that was really beautiful.
Yeah, it's the story. Yeah, the story behind it really pushes the product over the edge for us. Like,
Yeah.
give it a story, tell us who inspired it, and then what aspects of the product are inspired by, life. That's honestly fashion at its like prime, I feel like.
Absolutely.
And
I
not
agree.
enough is talked about that sort of like romanticizing who the customer is and what he or she needs. And,
Yeah.
just doing that work is it's mesmerizing, it's captivating, it makes you want to buy into the brand.
Yeah, and I feel like independent, minority designers are really good at that in a way that's why I find it like I feel like my favorites are kind of interesting. I guess maybe that's why I'm like kind of self-conscious about liking some of the really high fashion brands, like because I love them, of course, like as a designer girly. But there's something about the independent brands, like, we are closer to our customer, especially if you're not a legacy brand like a Chanel or Prada that's been, like you said, kind of you're digging through your own archives and you're kind of pulling from what you've already done and you're catering to your brand, obviously, but it's a very different approach than something like a Hanifa where you're like, you've recently in the last few years really made your name for yourself and capturing your audience, speaking to them, like I feel like we just have such a much better intimacy and it's like lifestyle. I think there's a lot more of a lifestyle component for brands like that versus, an aesthetic or a, status symbol type vibe.
Mm. What's like a shift in culture that designers can leverage either to grow their business or get their name out there or, you know, build a community?
Um, I would say, social media being, what it is, we all know that we get a lot of information through social media. Um, One, I think a lot of us are craving more that authenticity, right? Like I know on Instagram, even people are talking about how they're promoting reels that are like made with like high level video quality but look like they're not, like that type of thing. It seems like there's this push for authenticity. So I would say honestly, like, that's shifting the culture in the sense like there's a need for intimacy, right? There's a need for like in-person experiences. I think like going to New York, you kind of get just a very different vibe and you get a very specific take on fashion that I don't think you're going to get anywhere else, especially in the
Mhm.
States at least. You see people that actually are dressing on a daily basis, so I think just leveraging that, honestly, I mean, I feel like that's kind of a basic opinion, but like really talking to people in real life who can really dress, like that is, I feel like just hugely impactful, especially if you're not in New York. Like that's, for a lot of people, you go into it thinking, oh, like I love fashion, you love clothes. And then you go somewhere where people also inherently are stylish. And it's very different than coming from your hometown where it's like, oh yeah, like you're you're into fashion comparatively, right? So just being able to touch and talk to people that really do associate with style and really love clothing and even art, thinking about, I guess, other modes as well. I think that's been hugely inspiring and motivational for me. Like sometimes I'll just go to a museum. If I'm just kind of in a rut, I go to a museum and for some reason, I always have to kind of force myself to go. And then when I go, it's like, it just opens my eyes in a different, it always opens my eyes in a different way than however I was looking at my clothes or my design process before, just to see somebody else's art in a very different form. And I think I love art because it's like, it's not utilitarian in the way that clothes are. So even when you try not to think about who's going to wear this, how would they be wearing it, the form of the model, like with clothing, it creeps in because somebody's got to wear it. It's got to be for something. And with art, it's purely just, it's artistic, it's decorative. And so I guess it just, kind of flips the process on its head. So I say doing things like that, just getting out of your own zone, as much as you can.
Yeah, I second that 100%. All right, so we're gonna slide on over to the hype seat. I'm gonna ask you a question or say a phrase, and I just want your honest, unfiltered answer.
Oh gosh.
Okay, so first question I have is what style rules should never be broken?
Oh my God. What style rule should never be broken? Oh, I would say proportions. Oh my God. People, I think, are really, okay, not in New York. See, New York people are really great at knowing their fit, like knowing their body and knowing what looks good on their body. I feel like the rest of the world is not so great at that. So, like that, and I feel like that's a number one style rule. Like when people come to me asking to help them style themselves and things like that and pull pieces for them, it's usually like you don't know your body, you don't know what looks good on your body, and you don't know your personality. So, I mean, or like, not that you don't know, but how clothes can translate that. So that's just number one. Like, and we've seen influencers, celebrities that wear stuff. It'll be basic stuff, and it's because it fits their body. Like the fit doesn't always be that amazing. It's that it fits them. So that's number one style. Know your proportions. Understand how the pieces lay on your body, because you can really literally wear a t-shirt and jeans and look perfect if it fits.
Facts. I 100% back that one because I feel like that's what I go for. Is like, does it make me look good? It's not. Are the clothes fly? It's like, do I look good though?
Yeah.
Uh,
Exactly.
Second question is, what style rule is meant to be broken?
I feel like anything that has to do with colors. I feel like maybe this is just a Southern mentality, like Black Southern people. It's like, oh, they don't match. Like, you grow up thinking, oh, they don't go. And now, the more you get into fashion and really understand color theory and just color blocking, different things you can do with color, it's like, now this eats actually. Like the cyan red combination. That's something I would have always been like, oh, I didn't really get it when I was younger, but now I'm like, that is my favorite. So I think like color rules, like about being matchy. I just think there's a lot of exploration, and I've seen it on the runways too with different types of color stories. And I love that New York. That's something I do miss about being inspired by New York. I feel like there's so New York is just so different, right? There's so many people, so much going on. Like there's so many color stories that you just will not see in any other city that help informed at least my design. And so yeah, I think color rules are meant to be broken because it's really like it's much more of an aesthetic and just a vibe thing. Like you gotta, sometimes it don't always go together. Like the browns don't always mix, and that's okay. But you play around with it, and then like sometimes the brown and the black mix, sometimes the brown and the blue. So I think that's a one that will, you can play with forever.
I agree. I used to throw actually different patterns together. Like I used to be really daring and I would put like a pinstripe with a checker or like a plaid with like a corduroy. And I mean, looking back, I do cringe at some of the looks that I put together because
As you should.
I really was like experimenting a lot. I was actually thinking about this last night that I used to really experiment with clothes.
Yeah.
What became like sort of a burden was having a lot of like disparate pieces that didn't cohesively say something to me. But
Absolutely. Yeah.
growing up and I was
That's the
trying
kicker.
different things, like I didn't care what clashed. To me, it was different. And growing up in Georgia, I 100% agree to your point. When you live in New York, you see so many takes on style that it's hard
Yeah.
to maintain this sort of rigid idea of what coordinating looks or what stylish looks like. But in
Yeah.
Georgia, like there's sort of like I say three archetypes. You have like the very like chill, laid back, no effort looks. Then you have like the mid tier, like there's some style there, there's some personality there, but it's still very under the radar. And then you
Yeah.
have what I call like the if it's designer, you gonna wear it look, and you're just wearing the Gucci with the Balenciaga with the Fendi with the Prada, and it's like
Literally. Yeah.
ridiculous.
Oh, that's so Houston too.
I mean, I think it's like when you don't, it's like when you're in between the mid, I'm like playing with style to like, I'm playing with designers. I think that's where I think a lot of people get stuck that like, there's also a boundary where you can incorporate designer pieces, but still have like us, like, it still makes sense and it isn't a
Yeah.
lot going on. But
Yeah.
that's just my take because I'm so tired. I used to get so annoyed when I just see people throw labels on and don't
Yeah.
really have like a cohesive sort of style with it. It's just loud.
Yeah. Yeah. I saw
Loud.
somebody talking about this like yesterday too about the difference between quiet luxury and loud luxury with this. And like, I think a lot of us kind of think of it as like the loud luxury is the obvious glam label, like the complete Gucci belt and the Gucci monogram and the Fendi or look like Louis. But it was the person was saying like, it's not necessarily all that. Like loud luxury is anything where you can recognize the label. Like,
Mm.
because I've been into YSL. Oh, I didn't say that. The YSL, I forgot that. I've been in Y. I'm just really embarrassed, honestly, about a lot of my high fashion loves because I feel like they're so basic because of that, though. Because a lot of them, the emblem is very clear, and that's not really my aesthetic necessarily. Like, I have gotten more into it, like, because I used to hate logomania, but I've been more like understanding of it in the sense of, okay, if I love this piece and YSL decided that they needed to put their logo on it and it's still quality, like I can tell the quality, is it terrible for me to wear this? Like it's fine, and it's a mark of the times too, because fashion will change in years from now. Maybe we'll revert back to more of a quieter luxury stance. And then I'll still have my little YSL bag, the sunset with the YSL on it. And I'll be like, yeah, I got this. And you know what I mean? So kind of thinking about it from that perspective. But I feel like that comes with, like understanding the brand. And again, what are your values, right? Like, so I talked to some people and realized like, oh, you don't actually like fashion at all. Like, some people legitimately just want to buy something so that other people know they spent $3,000 on it. And I'm like, okay, well, if that's you, that, is obviously not a personal conviction with the piece. And that's a completely different type of customer. So that to me is not really, that's not a fashion customer. You know what I mean? Like, this is a status
Mm.
symbol customer. This is somebody who wants to make a point about themselves to other people. But if the label didn't exist, you wouldn't have bought this, you know?
Oh, That's really insightful. Yeah, there's a lot of that, I would say. Um, and it's definitely an education gap, I think,
Yeah.
in what and where value is placed. And,
Yeah, exactly.
our values definitely rule us in different ways, but I do think with the education, you're a more informed, just like buyer and lover of fashion, which
Yeah.
is important.
Yeah.
I think that's the big gap, even with sustainable fashion and fast fashion, is there's just a huge gap in knowledge
Yeah.
and appreciation and values that hopefully in the future things do shift in favor of a more considered style, a more considered shopping. But
Yeah.
for now, they're just peddling cheap clothing and telling us it's gonna make us feel good.
And it's working.
Last question for the hype seat. Your thoughts on Houston?
Oh, Houston, my hometown. I mean, I'll always love Houston. Houston, I mean, I think Houston is a beautiful for what it is. Like, I mean, it's hot. It's very hot, very humid. But, I love the greenery of Houston, the trees. I love the open skies. Like, I feel like Sandy Cheeks on the SpongeBob episode. Like, when she's talking about Texas, like, everything she said in that song is true. Like, the wide open skies, like, my 50 acres of land. Like, that's what I love about Houston. And to me, it has like a different, all of that to me is how I define luxury. And I think like how luxury has been defined for me since I was a child. Like I always imagined running around the Galleria as a, 28-year-old person in my car and like parking, going to shop and like having this very comfortable experience that I associate with luxury. Um, and so, it's kind of shocking going to New York and realizing like this is a city where there's true money for real. Like there's money, there's influence, there is style, there's fashion, there's art, all of the things that we rate highly and are not necessarily synonymous with luxury, but I feel like a very peripheral. Like when we think about luxury, I feel like a lot of what New York offers is, what we think about with luxury. But to me, the actual experience is much more involved. Like it's much more arduous. You have to work. You have to work to get to that level in New York, and it's hustle and bustle. You're never like at peace and a calm state of mind. So that's what I love about Houston. To me, like that Houston portrays luxury in that way for me. Like the areas, the neighborhoods in Houston that are affluent comfortably and calmly. So that's what I love. I mean,
Mm.
that's how I feel about
I'm gonna throw one other hype seat question. What's your thought on cowboy core?
it. Oh my God. Wait, this is so funny because I have been thinking about this and I haven't talked to anybody about this, even my Houston friends. Um, I feel a way. I'm not gonna lie, but I feel like obviously Beyonce was a big proponent of that, and the Renaissance tour. So that comforts me in the fact that it's been catching on. Um, I'm a little shady. I'm not gonna lie. I just feel like people love to hate on, the cowboy hats and the boots. I'm not really a cowgirly. I'm not gonna lie. So I was never really into that look, and I still am not. But I feel like every time somebody puts on a pair of boots, they need to shout out Houston. I don't know. That's just how I feel.
She's like, put some respect on Houston's name.
Put some respect. Like literally, like we've been wearing this to the rodeo. And if I say the rodeo, people like the rodeo. I'm like, yeah, the rodeo. Like, so
Have you gone to a
yeah.
rodeo before?
Oh, absolutely. Like, yeah, you gotta go to the
How is
rodeo.
it like going to a rodeo?
I mean, it's just fun. It's like the state fair in Dallas, like, I don't know, or like a state fair, it's like everybody goes. It's just fun. You put on your cowboy boots, you put on your hat, and there's a carnival. There's like, they used to have really good concerts. Like, I think my first concert ever was a B2K concert that was at the rodeo. So they used to have really good performers, no offense to the performers that have been there lately. They have not it's it seems like it's been kind of hit and miss the last few years. I mean, they used to have like just different people. They always have really great country acts, I think, but I don't listen to country that much. But they used to have a good mix. So yeah, it's just a really great time.
Mm. Has, in your opinion, has African Americans always been in those rodeo spaces, showing up, showing out, or has it been predominantly like white majority?
No, definitely not predominant. I mean, Houston is like was ranked one of the most diverse, like the most diverse city in the US like a few years ago. So when we're talking about like the rodeo is heavily diverse. I mean, I can't really speak too much on like has it always been that way or like in my memory like as a child just because I wasn't really paying attention the ways I would now. Um but yeah, I mean it definitely is not a white majority. I no, I wouldn't say that.
Interesting. I mean, it's so
Yeah.
interesting because I feel like the media has painted it to be this sort of like white culture. But from your understanding and probably your experience, it's always been blended to a degree.
Yeah, it's been blended here at least. I mean, I know other places in Texas, like there's other rodeos in Texas. So if you're talking about the Dallas rodeo or something like that, it may not be the same. And even like I'm from Humble originally, so the Humble rodeo feel like it was a little bit more. It's a little different in the suburbs, but the Houston rodeo is like it's just huge. It's literally an NRG where the Texans play, so like it's huge, and it's it's like all of Houston is gonna come out, and like a lot of companies give out rodeo tickets to their employees and stuff. So I think it's much more of a family oriented, like kind of like a state fair type vibe.
Awesome.
But and I know like a lot of black cowboy influences. Like I haven't done too much research on like black cowboys and things like that, but I know that that's a thing for sure. So
Yeah.
yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to find that it's been painted as a little more white than it really was
Hmm. I
or
mean,
originates.
the reason why I'm asking, I'm thinking maybe it might make its way into J. Alexandra Designs. I don't know.
You think? I don't know. There have been other Houston. There's actually a Houston designer who apparently did something with Hermes earlier this year. And did
Mm.
like scarf design, and there was some Western elements that it was a black designer. I heard this from somebody randomly at a bar, so actually I haven't even fact checked it as like I should have, but I think I looked it up and saw it, but I haven't like seen any fanfare about it. But yeah, she kind of put that bug in my ear too. Like maybe you need to get on the Western vibe. I'm like, maybe we'll see, we'll see.
We'll see.
I
That
feel
little,
like a couple of my
Houston.
pieces that I have coming. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
No, I was gonna say that the Houston intersecting with the New York intersecting with you, like I could see some slight nods to it.
Yeah, you can see it. We'll see. We'll
Yes.
see. A few of my pieces I feel like do kind of go with that vibe. So maybe I gotta find the right person to style. I gotta see it. I gotta see somebody style
You're
it.
gonna see it.
Mhm.
um, well, thank you so much for joining us on the right hype today. It has been a pleasure. Before we close out, are there any parting words that you want to leave for today's listeners?
I just want to say thank you all for listening. Just continue to shine in your own light. Like be your own person. I think a lot of what's going on right now, we feel like we're being, individualistic, but we still have a tendency to put ourselves in boxes and to classify other people in boxes. So like let's just all shine in our own light in our own lane and keep making waves.
And to add to that, and support independent designers right now. They need your support more than anything. And I
Yes.
know it's easier to like shop on Zara or, go onto Shein.com, but really it's important to your point that we have this collective mindset and support our independent designers who are making waves and, who have something to say. So I just wanted to add that
Yeah,
too.
absolutely. Oh,
Yeah.
thank you for that shout out. Yeah, support us, please.
Well, thank you so much and can't wait for everyone to hear this.
Yeah, me too. Thank you so much for having me. This has been amazing.